Hi, this week's Cattle Call is about the Endangered Species Act. So if this topic is of interest to you, stay tuned. I'm going to set up a little video clip that I want to show you and then tell you why we're struggling so much with getting the Endangered Species Act reauthorized. The Endangered Species Act's authorization expired 25 years ago. Now, we continue to fund it through the appropriations process, but authorization is key. The Natural Resources Committee is responsible for reauthorization, and we'd love to get about our work on that. But the following clip will show you why, when we begin to engage the environmental community, we run into roadblocks. So stay tuned, watch this clip, and then we'll talk further when it's over.
Mr. Parenteau, if you said that the ESA does not call for recovery of species, why do environmental groups not want to reauthorize the Endangered Species Act if that fundamental part is not part of ESA?
I think a lot of environmental groups would like to see the Endangered Species Act reauthorized. As Dr. Noss pointed out, the process takes too long. By the time
Wait. No, what process takes too long?
The entire process, the listing process, critical habitat recovery, the whole process.
Okay, I'm way over my time, but you made that statement, and yet I hear constantly that environmental groups do not want to come to the table and discuss what needs to be updated in the Endangered Species Act.
I think they do. I think they do.
Well, I would welcome them to certainly tell this committee that they'd like to do that, because I hear, frankly, that contrary to that. I welcome your statement. I really do. But I wish you'd communicate with your brethren out there that opposes that, so we can have a discussion on this. And I'm way over time on my you stated in testimony here that you think there are some environmental groups that would be willing to sit down and look at the recovery aspect and some of the other things that you mentioned. I think there are probably some common ground. We heard that from the other side of the aisle, certainly from our side of the aisle. So my homework to you, Mr. Parenteau, within the next 30 days, would you give me a list of those environmental groups that would be willing to sit down?
With the precondition that the act as it is not up for weakening.
Well, listen.
Strengthening.
The idea is, see, this is a thing that bugs me. All of a sudden there's a precondition, and all I'm asking you really is to say which environmental groups would want to sit down.
I will.
And so you have to have a precondition before we even agree on something as basic.
Yes, because they don't trust this committee to do what is needed for recovery.
Wait a minute. The premise that we said and what we heard all the way through is nobody wants to see a species go extinct. We want to recover a species. Who is opposed to that?
It's not what we say, Mr. Chairman, it's what we do. And what we're doing is driving species.
Mr. Parenteau, I have the gavel here, and I am giving you homework, and if you want to respond to that, that's fine. That's fine. In fact, I would welcome it. But to suggest when I'm just simply asking you for the groups that would want to talk, and you come up with conditions and then accuse this committee of not wanting to, or of lack of trust, defies logic to me. I was in the Congress, not on this committee at the time, when Mr. Pombo went through this, and I know Mr. Pombo very, very well. He got annihilated in the political process. Nobody can deny that. All I want from you is within 30 days you give me a list of environmental groups that would be willing to sit down and talk. And maybe in the near future we can reauthorize this act to focus on recovery, because that's what the intent, in my view, was of the Endangered Species Act right from the get-go. Again,
as you can see from the clip, we had an encounter between our committee chairman, Doc Hastings, who is from the state of Washington, and a gentleman who is a law professor from the Vermont Law School, but who is an advisory committee member to the Center for Biological Diversity. And the chairman was trying to get them just to sit down at the table with us and begin to discuss this. The Center for Biological Diversity's representative was already trying to put preconditions on those discussions. Look, we have to throw out the old 20th century model of litigation, confrontation, and start over. There's obviously a lot of raw nerves about this issue around Capitol Hill. The only way we're going to do it is if we can sit down with those environmental and conservation groups that have a 21st century outlook on how to go forward with this, put aside the rancor of the past, and move forward in a positive direction. Doc Hastings and I really hope to do that through this Endangered Species Act working group that we're co-chairing. So stay tuned. We'll be talking to you more about that as this year goes on. For this week's Cattle Call, I'm Cynthia Lummis.